Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm William Marcus. I serve as the Director of the Broadcast Media Center at the University of Montana. That's the home for Montana Public Radio and the Missoula station of Montana PBS. For full disclosure, I'm an employee of the University of Montana. I report to the Vice President for Integrated Communications. The Broadcast Media Center is a public service of the university. It is not part of the public relations service or activities. The UM administration supports and observes a policy of editorial independence for Montana Public Radio and Montana PBS. I don't speak for either the radio station or the TV station or the university here. I am the moderator, and my interest in taking this position comes from my recent experience as a board member of Humanities Montana, a group that fosters and supports civility in public dialogue. Please remember that this is not a debate, it's not a deposition, this isn't a trial, this isn't an election. It's an opportunity to listen to each other. I'm here to moderate this forum as a civil, constructive venue of ideas and opinions that will help President Engstrom as he decides an issue that will have a long-lasting impact on Missoula. Joining the President on the panel of listeners are Mark Headley from Studio Forma, Architects in Bozeman. He's the lead architect on the project. He also was the lead architect on the beautiful Don Anderson Hall on campus. Asa Holman, the ASUM president, will be joining us in this seat eventually. Asa is the ASUM president. He started his college career in the culinary arts program at Missoula College. Sarah Smith is the president of Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, the Missoula College Honor Society. She's studying business and accounting at Missoula College. And Brigitte Freer is a member of the Missoula College Advisory Board and the Business Development Director of the Missoula Economic Partnership. And Brigitte has to leave at about 20 to 6 today, but she will be at the forum tomorrow for the entire time. These forums also function as listening and scoping sessions for the Missoula College project as part of any environmental assessment updates or traffic studies that may be required before construction begins. We'll hear from President Engstrom, then Mark Headley will give an overview of the project, and there should be about 90 minutes for comments. On May 6th, Governor Bullock signed House Bill 5, which included funding for the construction of a Missoula College facility. UM is now preparing to build that facility. 2 sites are currently under consideration, and they are the focus of the forums today and tomorrow. The South Campus UM Golf Course site, and on May 16th, President Engstrom announced a site on East Broadway near the Montech Center as an option. Fort Missoula and the old Fox Theater sites are not under consideration. UM is looking for a range of comments on the South Campus and East Broadway sites so that they will have a full view of what the public sees as the issues and topics that need to be addressed regarding each site. Let's hear first from President Engstrom, and then he'll introduce Mark Headley.
Thank you, William. Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate you taking the time from your schedules to come and talk with us today and provide feedback on this very important topic. I want to say thanks to William for the work that he does in general, but for taking on this special task today of moderating this forum. I really appreciate that a great deal. Before I make some comments, I want to just recognize a few people that are here in attendance today, people who are very interested in the discussion that we have today and certainly interested in the outcome. Let me start with my boss. Back in the Back of the room there, Commissioner of Higher Education Clay Christian, and at least one of his bosses, Regent Jeff Krause from Bozeman. So thank you both for being here. We have a number of elected officials with us, and I'm very appreciative of you folks taking your time out as well. I'm not sure I saw everybody, but Representative Nancy Wilson, I think, is here, Representative Dudick, Representative Moore, Senator Barrett, and Senator Facey. Are there any others in the audience from the legislature? Okay, well, thank you all for coming, and I see Marilyn Mahler from City Council here in the front row. Are there others from City Council? Alex? There he is. Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Okay, good. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate that a great deal. Several of us in the room spent the week in Butte, Montana. We had 2 days at Senator Baucus's Economic Development Summit, and then a couple of days of meeting with the Board of Regents. I want to just tell you a couple of things about that Economic Development Summit because they are relevant to what we're talking about today. This was an amazing event. Senator Baucus brought in just a headliner group of people. He had the CEO from companies like Boeing, companies like Facebook, Google, Ford Motor Company, and these folks all gave remarks, and to a person, they all emphasized the importance of higher education in developing today's economy in Montana and around the world. If there was one consistent theme throughout the entire 2 days of that conference, it was the importance of higher education. And in fact, two-year education was touted as well, very much a part of that as we think about workforce development and providing opportunities for people in relatively short time frames to move directly into the workforce. The Montana University system has been working now for several years to increase the visibility of two-year education, to expand the availability of two-year education, and to make two-year education more affordable and more accessible to people. And certainly the project that we're here to talk about today is a big part of that. You may have seen in the news just yesterday at the Regents meeting the announcement of a $25 million grant to the state of Montana, really all targeted at two-year education. The Missoula College is going to be one of the entities involved in that, as is the Bitterroot College down the road, and essentially every other two-year school in the state of Montana. That's a tremendous grant, $25 million to promote two-year education and to make it more effective in building our economy and creating opportunities for the citizens of Montana. This comes on the heels of a multi-year grant from the Lumina Foundation that the Regents and others have been working with to do the same thing, to really promote two-year education. So the recent renaming and rebranding of the two-year colleges of technology is what they used to be called, including our College of Technology here. That recent rebranding to the Missoula College and the others around the state, like Helena College, Great Falls College, and so on, was a part of that effort from the Lumina Foundation. And it's working. More and more people are getting their education in our two-year system. And so it was intended to provide opportunities for people, and it has done that. So the legislature, in this most recent session, appropriated $29 million to build a new facility for the Missoula College. I think you are all aware of that. And I want to say right now how deeply appreciative I am of the legislators, both here, who are here with us today, but the entire legislature, for that action. This was a long time in the making, several sessions. Actually, the Missoula College has been on the agenda one way or another, and so for the legislature to take that action in this last session, most deeply appreciated, but also tremendous foresight on their part. So thank you all legislators who are here with us today. I want to review for just a moment the mission of two-year education, because it is a complex mission in a way, has 5 different facets to it, and this is a mission really adopted by the Montana Board of Regents that is applicable to all of the two-year schools in the state of Montana. So there are really 5 prongs to that mission. One is transfer education. So this is a way of students getting started with their higher education, taking 2 years at one of our 2-year schools, and then going on to further higher education if they so choose. And so that is one of the ways that people get started in higher education. It's becoming a more and more important way for Montana citizens. Second part of the mission is workforce development. Those certificates and applied associate's degrees that put people right into the workforce. Degrees like welding technology, diesel mechanics, nursing, and so on. Another aspect of this is what we call developmental education, where students who are wanting to go to college, but they might not be quite prepared for the math and English that college requires at this point. So our 2-year colleges are the ones charged with providing that developmental education, allowing people to get up to college level expertise in those areas so that they can succeed. Lifelong learning is another aspect of our 2-year college mission. And so the idea that people can come back as adults throughout their lives, take individual courses or sets of courses or programs to further their education, whether it's job related or just interest related. And finally, community development. Our 2-year colleges are an integral part of our communities. Certainly the Missoula College fulfills that role, and so we want to continually expand our opportunities to provide for community development through education. So to that end, I want to just give you a few snippets of some of the neat things that are going on at our Missoula College that have nothing to do with the location. I just want to tell you a few things about it. Our nursing program students, for example, have a 100% pass rate for the national license examination. 100% pass rate, and then a 100% employment rate. That's outstanding. This year, our culinary students placed with a bronze medal in the American Culinary Federation regional competition. So again, it speaks to the quality of the education. Our energy technology program students had a 100% pass rate of those students who took the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners. So I could go on and on with snippets like that, but the fact is, the point of that is that our Missoula College and the faculty at that Missoula College are highly dedicated. They are focused on excellence, and they are focused on student success. That is underlying all of this, that issue of student success. So as we move into thinking about the location for the Missoula College, there are a number of criteria that we think are important to making this site selection. And so I'd like to just tell you what those criteria are from my point of view. First, proximity to the university's main campus, so that shared resources can contribute to a cost-effective education. Second, an attractive setting that reinforces the importance of 2-year education. Third, access to transportation and adequate parking. Fourth, the opportunity for future expandability. 10, 20 years from now, the Missoula College may be at 4,000 students, or even more perhaps. And so we need to have that flexibility to expand. And finally, a location that contributes to the strength of our community. We have one of the most supportive communities of higher education. You probably saw the recent news that Missoula is ranked like number 7 in college towns. That's a very important aspect of who we are at the University of Montana. That supportive Missoula community is critical to us. We have a beautiful community, a beautiful campus. We want to keep it that way. No matter where this location ends up being, the intent is to design a building and a placement of that building and the surroundings that continue to support and reinforce the beauty of our campus. I'm fully aware that any site location that we could decide upon is going to be controversial. There will be challenges and special opportunities around either site that we end up selecting, and I'm also fully confident that no matter what decision we end up making, not everybody will agree with that decision. That's okay. That's why we're here today, to get your feedback, to get your thoughts on what is the best of these 2 locations for us, and to use that information then to go forward and make the best decision that we can, the best decision that I can. Ultimately, I'll make a decision, and I'll make that recommendation to the regents, and that will finalize the decision, and we'll go forward from there. I appreciate very much your thoughts, and I look forward to listening very carefully to what you have to say. I've heard from many of you over the past year as you know. And but I want to hear anything that you have to say. We're here primarily to listen. William will moderate, and if there are questions that we can respond to, William will field those and direct them to the appropriate person. So thank you very much again for coming. I look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thanks. Mark, you maybe should introduce yourself since I didn't.
Well, I did raise my hand earlier, so I think I identified myself now. Yes, Mark. Oh, you do. That's working? Yes. Okay.
I have a question before we start talking about the two sites, and it's to President Engstrom.
I'm sorry, could you hold your questions until we have the form? Thank you.
Okay, so we're just going to take about 10 minutes because people are actually very familiar, I think, with the South Campus site since we've been discussing it for 5 years now. And maybe try to focus a little bit more on the East Broadway site since it was really just conceived of June of this summer. So in terms of proximity, the South Campus is literally separated by about 8 to 10 blocks of residential area. And here you can see the main campus, Mount Sentinel. And on this aerial, the East Broadway site is actually just really on the edge of this this picture here. So you can see Jacobs Island, and you can see it's very close proximity then to the main campus. Of course, the main feeders being Arthur, Higgins, South Avenue, and the proposed greenway that will hopefully be completely developed in the future along the base of Mount Sentinel. So since 5 years elapsed from when we did the program and the first concept design and waiting for funding, the first thing we did, of course, and the first question when the East Broadway site came up was, the number one question, is it big enough? So we went very quickly back to the Missoula College staff and students, and we tried to update at least the building program, because we were not going to just analyze it based on phase 1 of this project, but actual long-range projections. And the Missoula College had experienced tremendous growth over that 5 years. So we actually, as you would imagine, increased some of those aspects and numbers. And so the main thing that we have analyzed, of course, both sides for is, this is again long range. The phase 1 would be about 110,000 square feet. Their long range projections would have had another 45,000 or so gross square feet. We would have the requirement to reach at least LEED silver. That's a state requirement now. But we are going to be shooting for an environmental building certification of the next higher level, which is gold. So that impacts the site selection as well. All of the departments, including culinary, were going to be analyzed and brought into the building program for the East Broadway site in particular. 33 classrooms is the master program, accommodating 55 faculty, 80 adjunct faculty and offices, a dean suite. The building will be highly interactive. It's become almost the norm now for collegiate architectural design, is that used to be buildings did not have a lot of interaction spaces, and now it's become one of the most important aspects. So there'll be lots of spaces between your classrooms and your offices that students can interact with students, students can interact with faculty, faculty can interact with faculty. So highly interactive spaces with lots of internet connection. So this is just some of the diagrams that we'll touch on very quickly that in the master plan supplement that we did, which built on the master plan that was developed in 2007. And that's been posted on websites for quite some time. But just in terms of vehicular activity then, this is the main entrance now that kind of leads to the pro shop, which is right there. So that avenue was going to be developed as the main entrance into the South Campus. And that would be the first leg in our project. That would be the path for all of the infrastructure. So water, electricity, gas, telecommunications would be brought underground from South Avenue area to our building location. Long range, there would be a loop that would connect all the way back to Higgins. And then we would keep the secondary access points into all of the housing projects that have been developed over the many decades back on the South Campus. In terms of vehicular traffic, it was going to be very, very bike friendly with tremendous amounts of bike storage that was going to help in our environmental assessments. There would be a tremendous trail system that would be developed, and transit stops. There would be primarily one at the north and south end of the academic core, and then several others that are close to the married student housing area. Some of the main open space things that were developed and became very driving in the overall master plan was 300 yards long, to give you a sense of scale for that. And it was really meant to actually be equal to the main oval on the mountain campus, and it's virtually the same size. So that's the main green space, with all kinds of secondary courtyard spaces that would be developed as the buildings would be built over time. Of course, the potential greenway that's been talked about for many years. The hillside would be completely preserved in the master plan. The south area was going to be maintained for open green space, community gardens, and a lot of the amenities that we'll look at in a second. And then we had, of course, the intramural fields, the track, and a future bubble, which would be used for like tennis and track and different athletic activities in the winter. So that's kind of just a greener diagram of the same thing. So when we had our community meetings over the past year or so, we actually had a lot of great suggestions on, as that space begins to be developed for 100% of the community, and not just a very restrictive use of being used as a golf course for 6 months out of the year. We had a lot of great suggestions. Of course, we kind of came up with the public commons and the trail system and an outdoor amphitheater, which could be built right directly on the side of Mount Sentinel at the end of that commons. But a lot of the community members that became very excited about the potential for that space, they suggested things like community gardens. That actually was one of the comments from the community. Frisbee golf courses, beach volleyball pits, horseshoe pits, bird watching stations, interpretive stations, which would be like for the biology and the flora there. Chess pavilion, splash park, archery range, skateboard course, and enhancement of the existing playground that's there. So those were a lot of the good suggestions that we had and would consider. And by the way, I think it's important to note that many of those could be developed on the East Broadway site as well. So we'll carry those over if that site is selected, and try to incorporate a lot of those great ideas on that site as well if it is selected. Then we had some view sheds that we just wanted to share again today from recent photographs. This is that main entry, which would become and be developed as the South Campus entry, basically. And then all these shots are from the current proposed building location. So this would be the view shed back to the east, to the south, and this is up on the hillside looking back at the main building site again, with the views primarily to the south and to the north. Then the East Broadway site, this is a little bit larger aerial. You can see it's very close proximity to the main campus. This is Jacob's Island, this is the existing footbridge. And in years past, there has been a footbridge considered, and actually some schematics have been done on a fully suspended footbridge at approximately this location. So that, of course, would just make it literally a couple-minute walk from the north part of the campus. So the closer look, the main neighbors then would be Montec and the assisted living complex here. There is an existing park and ride facility, which we would keep and enhance. We would bring this up to Missoula landscaping standards. So that's a plus, and that a lot of the parking is already built there on the site. And then there is a very dramatic drop-off right about here, which is probably about 16 feet actually. So the building will sit very high on the site, and then there'll be a very protected lower area which will be developed as a great amenity along the Clark Fork River. We analyzed all of the utilities, and the basic bottom line is that all the utilities are there. They're all adequate for development of the long-range program. And so we will have probably significant cost savings with regards to infrastructure if the site is selected. So the utilities, it's a very good site. Then this is one of 3 building diagrams to answer the question, does it fit? And we did one on the east side, one in the center, and this one's more on the west side. This is the one I think has been most favorably received by everyone. The bottom line is it does meet the size requirements for even the long-range projections of the Missoula College. And that's this yellow area here. So this would be the riparian resource area, which would be highly developed under the Missoula zoning requirements. And then they also require a buffer zone, part of that design. And then we would have our parking slightly expanded and provide also 240 spaces across the street on the Montana Rail Link right-of-way, which has been agreed upon to be leased for that purpose. Then more view sheds. This is really at 5'8" above the ground when we took this picture. So you can imagine 3 or 4 stories up. The views back to the campus, you'll get a very, very nice perspective of the campus. You'll be able to see, of course, the football stadium, all of the main buildings probably, at least once you get on the upper floors. And looking back to the north, the site is very well sited for solar orientation because the views are to the south. If the views were to the north, that's usually a problem because we'll minimize glass on the north side, maximize it on the south side for passive solar. So it's a very nice site in that regard as well. And then, of course, up on the hillside, you can see the entire site. This is at Montana Rail Link right of way. This is Montech. Again, you can see the river. The hillside will also have a wonderful presence on that site because a lot of the south class, again, will be looking directly across that. And when we were doing, we also worked on the Montech project. We were delighted one day. We actually watched mother bear and 2 cubs up there. So that's the great thing about Montana. The outdoors is always usually just outside your window. And here you can just barely see it, but another important aspect of this site is all the renewable energy systems that the Missoula College uses in their programs are on this site. There's a large wind generator, there's photovoltaics, and a hydrogen fueling station. So they are actually located in that building site. So they would probably be relocated somewhere on the site or across the street, but they would be very close to their existing programs. And then lastly, I guess the greatest amenity or consideration about East Broadway will be just the potential there for the river front and what it could be, and potentially really setting the bar for Missoula. When you think about most of the great cities in the world, whether it's London, Paris, Budapest, San Antonio, Great Falls, they're all, most great cities are associated with a great river. And this is a wonderful blessing. It's just such a beautiful river. So we've started to really dream and think about how a river is a real attractor as people's face with the enhanced landscaping. The culinary school will have, their tremendous lunch program that they've got anyway, which is in such high demand. Again, all of this being on the south side of the building and depressed. So it's going to have good, it probably will be even some very nice days. You could use this in the winter when it's sunny. And the site and the building will protect it from a lot of the north and west winds. And, there's also that rise, just like we were conceiving of the amphitheater on the Mount Sentinel. Well, that same kind of amenity could happen on that rise there facing the river. And who knows, maybe one day our riverfront park will be first thing on the 10 o'clock news. So. you know, it's a very exciting thing to think about because it's just such a beautiful setting there on the river. And I think that's it. So I think we're ready for questions.
And I'd like to open the forum for comments. Please use the microphone in the beginning in the front of the room here. This is being recorded by the media, and your comments will then be available to them as well. We do have a note taker who is taking down all of the questions and the notes. If you're a member of a group of speakers, please try to avoid the same comment again and again. You can say, I agree with the previous speaker, and then add the issues that you want to address as well. That way we can hear from more people in shorter time. A question that requires a lengthy answer from the table is going to cut down on the number of people who are going to be able to say their piece here today and give their opinions, which is really what the university wants to hear. Please limit your comments to about 2 minutes or so. I have a stopwatch here. I'm not going to be a bad cop, but I will be watching that. You can also leave written comments as well. And those forms are in the back, and we will collect those. The university will collect them. You can also email a question to buildmc@umontana.edu. Buildmc, the Build Missoula College, @umontana.edu. There's also a website that has a list of frequently asked questions and answers. That's at umt.edu, the university's main website, /Build Missoula College. And that was updated this morning, I think. Questions that are gathered in this forum will be answered on the website as soon as possible. So please identify yourself and any affiliation you care to share, and tell us what street you live on. I live on Jackson Street. And would you like to go first?
My name is Ginny Terrio. I am a retired community college teacher from another state. And I just have a question of clarification because of about what you said about it being a transfer college. I have been told twice by the registrar at the University of Montana that one can only transfer 6 units from the university, from the Missoula College to the university. That's my first question for clarification. The other one is, you mentioned a nursing program, and I am unsure of this. I just wanted to know because that would be a transferable thing as well. Do they take all their science classes there? Is this a vocational nursing program, or is it an RN program? That's why I wanted to ask you as you finished your comments. And I live on Central Avenue, east of Higgins. It's very near the South Campus. Thank you.
Thank you. So first of all, your question about transfer. We have, as of 2 or 3 years ago, something called common course numbering in the state of Montana. And so a student who takes Math 115 at one institution, that automatically transfers to Math 115 at any other institution in the state. So a student can actually take a full associate's degree program, which could be, essentially 2 full years of 60 credits, and move into into 4-year college after that. So they're not limited to six credits at all. In fact, I just met a wonderful student this summer who finished her complete Associate of Arts degree at Bitterroot College, which is affiliated with our Missoula College. She completed the entire Associate of Arts degree and is now on the main campus pursuing a bachelor's degree. And those credits essentially got her the first 2 years of college. So I'm not sure where the 6 credit limitation comes from. Maybe someone in the audience, Barry or somebody else, could say that. It might be with a specific program or something, but a student can accumulate quite a few credits in as much as 2 full years of work. Now, admittedly, it depends on what the student takes at Missoula College. So if a student takes, say, a radiation technology program and then transfers to become a history major, those credits in radiation technology obviously don't work for the history major. So there is some dependence on what the student took at the 2-year college. Let me ask Asa to address that, because Asa, who came in a little late, he was in Butte, and he's the chair of the Student Association for the entire state, so he was a little late getting here, but Asa did his first work at the Missoula College and transferred to the main campus, so maybe you want to address that, Asa.
Absolutely. So I started my career at the Missoula College in a technical degree in welding, and so the very few credits that I did in that before I changed my mind are not transferable, as the president alluded to, and as I'm sure you're well aware, because I'm no longer pursuing welding. But all of the credits that I took there that are all general education credits, those were all completely transferable. And in my particular case, that was also before Common Course numbering, and so though they were all, even before then, they were still transferable.
So Asa, roughly how many credits do you think you actually transferred that apply to what you're doing now?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, rough estimate, 30 credits, 35.
All your general education requirements?
Yes, ma'am.
Then your second question was about nursing, and so the college, or the Missoula College, has a 2-year nursing program, and it's to prepare students to be an LPN. Is that correct, Barry? LP.
LPN, yeah. It's one program, and then we also have the associate degree program, ASN program.
ASN, okay. So a student could, with that 2-year nursing degree, go on to get a BSN at any other school that offers that, actually, as a finishing kind of a program. We at the University of Montana do not offer the BSN. However, Montana State University does offer the BSN on our campus. It's not designed to be a 2+2, really. The BSN from MSU is designed to be a 4-year from the beginning. But a student can certainly take the 2-year degree they get here and then finish out for a BSN somewhere else. Thank you.
I've got to say, I expected a line to have formed by this time. I hoped this would be a civil conversation, and I certainly didn't think this would be a shy group. So please step up, say your piece.
I'll start. I'm
Okay.
not shy. Is my microphone working?
It is.
My name is Marilyn Marler, and I live on 8th Street. And in the interest of full disclosure, I'm also a university employee. I'm a botanist and a land manager in the biology department. But I'm here in my other professional role, which is as a city council member. I represent Ward 6. I'm also currently serving as the city council president. And I'm here to read a short statement from myself and Mayor John Engen. I do not speak for other city council members because we have not taken this up as a city council issue. So I heard you say, and I'm not checking my Facebook, I'm reading off of my device right now, just to be clear. I hear that there are 2 sites on the table, and I just wanted to let you know from the city leadership perspective, there's still another site on the table. I'm not trying to derail the conversation, and I have comments that relate to the sites that are on the table. So from Mayor Engen and myself, we've generally regarded the location of Missoula College to be UM's business. However, when UM began to consider alternatives to the long contested and firmly defended site on the South Campus, we felt compelled to weigh in publicly. The East Broadway alternative site seems initially appealing because it isn't the South Campus. However, the East Broadway site was recently under consideration as a location for much needed student housing. The need for that student housing and the agreement to work together on building that student housing were acknowledged less than a year ago in an MOU between UM and the mayor's office. Locating Missoula College on that site that had been identified as a strong possibility for student housing puts off that problem indefinitely. So let's consider the downtown option recently pitched by Mayor Engen, putting Missoula College downtown. Excuse me. It's harder to read than just talk, actually. Putting Missoula College downtown does not detract from the university neighborhood near South Campus, and it does not diminish opportunities for student housing near campus. Rather, it adds a tremendous amount to downtown Missoula and therefore the whole community. Missoula College would fit beautifully into the larger development proposed for the riverfront triangle, the spot bordered by the Clark Fork River, Orange Street, and Broadway. And I agree with the comments about great cities having great rivers, and we do have an incredible park system existing in the downtown already. We've been working for decades to create a world-class place at that site in Missoula College, so a late guest at the party would be most welcome. Right now we've planned for a quality hotel, a conference space, medical and office spaces, retail, residential, and restaurants, a beautiful public plaza, and lots of parking. The Riverfront Triangle would be a cost-saving, community-building, education-enhancing location for Missoula College. The site works well under the 4 considerations. It's close to main campus, it's extremely beautiful, there's abundant transportation and parking options, there's room for expansion, and the location contributes to the health of the community. But wait, there's more. But in the interest of time, I'm not going to list them.
Thank you.
Yeah. I hear you. While we are elected community leaders and we're reluctant to try to second guess administration, we felt it was important to speak up in the forum, and I'm very grateful for the chance to have the forum. This is an opportunity for the community to work together to do something that's not only better than what's on the table, but we could do something truly, truly exceptional. And we offer this idea in the spirit of working together. Thank you, President Engstrom, for your heartfelt work, not just on this issue, which has been tough, but some of the other very difficult community issues that have come up during your tenure. With respect, Marilyn and John, and I look forward to talking with you more about this tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let me just make a response comment very quickly. Marilyn, thanks very much, and I appreciate so much the creative thinking of Mayor Engen and others who brought that idea forward. It is an intriguing, it was an intriguing idea, and I enjoyed talking with a variety of people about the potential there. And I just want to say that there isn't any one thing about that opportunity that made me think it wasn't attractive. I mean, you know, I could say, well, it doesn't offer as much opportunity for expansion or as much parking, so all of those things can be addressed and all of that. But in the sort of overall integrated sense of things, it just seemed to me that that location didn't, in the end, hold enough advantage over the 2 that we were looking at to decide to go there. So I just wanted to respond in that way. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Hello, my name is Garrett Swanson. I live on East Broadway in the Cobblestone Townhouse development. I am a recent graduate of a Master's of Landscape Architecture and Planning program. And in looking at your site criteria, I'd like to speak specifically to number 4, growth, and number 5, strength of the community and benefits for active lifestyle. So I don't know if it'd be possible to go back to slides, but if the public remembers the slide for the East Broadway development, there was a large, thank you. There is a large parking lot there, and previously the board mentioned an extensive list of site amenities for the public. My question for the board to consider, how would those site amenities fit into that footprint? And then the second one I would like the board to consider in their decision with the East Broadway site is stormwater management and its access to the Clark Fork River and the riparian zone. It's an extremely important buffer. That's what, 240 plus cars there at a 6-inch curve. That's a lot of water for your 5, 10, and 20-year storm event to manage. And if that site is selected, I would like to ask the board to also consider restoring waterfront property that has been damaged to be able to offset what you develop there. And second of all, how would you address growth and development at the East Broadway site versus the South Campus site? I mean, we can go up here, but there's very little room to go out.
There's about, that's a lot of questions. I'll try to remember them all.
It's a lot.
I'm going to go back to the beginnings. Tell me if I'm skipping something. Site amenities would probably be in that entire green zone, obviously. Many of them probably down in the floodplain along the river, obviously, because that's where we're going to be developing the aesthetic green spaces. And like you said, there is a huge parking demand here. And the existing parking lot is that, you know, that entire lot along East Broadway. So we're only really increasing the actual parking by, you know, 25% or so. So I'm not sure when that parking was built and if it actually meets code right now with regards to stormwater runoff. But whatever we would do now, it would not only have to meet Missoula requirements, but the fact that we'd be doing a LEED gold, trying to get a LEED gold certification, we probably would actually exceed the Missoula requirements. And so there would be quite a bit of stormwater retention ponds developed into the site. And what were some of the other questions?
So the site amenities, stormwater management, what you would
The repair of the damage
and then,
to the waterfront.
Yeah, and then to be able to offset the damage to the waterfront. There are acres and acres of waterfront riparian zones that could be restored as an offset to this development. This is what I asked the board to consider in their future conversations.
You are correct though on your expansion. On that footprint there, I think about 30% of the footprint would be horizontally. So say if it's a 4-story building, 4 stories could be expanded by about 30%. But there is a higher potential here to design the building to add floors in the future. So there would be more potential on this site to possibly expand the program beyond what we're visioning right now. So,
Cool.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Marcus, thank you. Appreciate your willingness to moderate. President Ekstrom and the rest of the panel, thank you for listening to us. My name is Quentin Rhodes. I live on East Central. I'm about 2 blocks where that north entrance to the South Campus would exist. So, you know, I'm going to be one of your neighbors if you move in there. I also represent advocates for Missoula's future. I'm doing that on a pro bono basis because I'm a neighbor and because, you know, it's kind of like our neighborhood and I'm the lawyer in the neighborhood. Before I get to my remarks on the law, I'd like to review a little bit of the history that supports our legal position. It goes back 90 years, and it starts in November of 1922. But, the Alumni Challenge Athletic Field Corporation was formed, and it pledged at that time to build athletic fields for what was then Montana State University, what became UM. The ACAFC, as I call it, then in January of 1923 held a public meeting attended by 1/4 of the alumni residing in Missoula County at that time to discuss ways and means of honoring the pledge of providing those athletic fields for the university. And they determined it would cost about $20,000 to get that project underway. And so what they did to raise that money, starting in 1925, was sell bonds. And they sold them to private individuals, the great bulk of which were alumni. And they raised the money to acquire the land in June of 1926, where the golf course now sits. There's a quarter section there that they purchased for that purpose, and they spent the next 20 years developing it into athletic fields and the golf course. Fast forward to January of 1947, and the Associated Students of the Montana State University, its central board adopted a resolution recommending that the Alumni Challenge Athletic Field Corporation sell the athletic field the state of Montana, quote, with the understanding that the president of the university will make a commitment to use the property thus acquired for intramural sports and the athletic program, unquote. A year later, in December of 1948, the executive board of UM adopted a resolution recommending that the State Board of Education purchase from the successor of the Alumni Challenge Athletic Field Corporation, quote, acting as trustee for associated students of UM, the existing golf course site in the sum of $30,000. So they recommended that it be purchased for $30,000. In that same document, it further acknowledges, quote, the current market value of the site without improvements is greatly in excess of that amount. So in other words, they're purchasing the property, that is the state of Montana was purchasing the property from that private development corporation that was a nonprofit corporation for substantially less than fair market value. The difference between the fair market value and the purchase price being what we view to be a donation. And in that document, the executive board of UM stipulated, quote, this proposal contemplates transfer of the site for student recreational purposes, unquote. So at the time, the proposed purchase for less than market value was for the purpose of creating university student recreational facilities. And that was their intention. It was and then finally, after the purchase was made, then UM President McCain penned a letter to the ASUM President Mueller stating, quote, I wish to assure the associated students of UM it is my intention to use the property for student activities in accordance with the official policy of your organization. I hope future administrations of the university will be guided by this memorandum in any use of the golf course site. And so,
Mr. Rhodes,
yes.
as a representative of the Advocates for Missoula's Future, I'd like to give you a couple more minutes because you do represent, I think, a large group of folks here, but you've gone 4 minutes to this point, so 2 more minutes.
Thank you. And the reason I took the time, and I appreciate it, Mr. Marcus, that I'll try not to take too much more, was to lay the historical background behind why we think you don't have the legal option of building on the South Campus. And that is simply the statute that reads, the regents have to manage the property that may be donated to it for the specific purpose of the donation. And so in our view, whether it's a good idea, certainly you have the discretion to make certain decisions if they're within the bounds of the law. But it's our view that you don't have the option of managing that quarter section of land outside the purpose of the donation. And you know, there's some other legal arguments around that as well, and I don't want to take the time to go into them. That's the primary one. And the question is what was the purpose? Why was the university allowed to purchase that property for substantially less than fair market value? And now that it did, once it agreed to do that, is it obligated to honor that donation? And we think the statute requires that it is obligated. And so we don't think, as good an idea as it may be, as nice as and beautiful as it might be, we don't think there's a legal opportunity to do that. So I just wanted to give you our perspective on that. I'm not asking you to answer questions or address the issues today, but I just wanted to lay that history out so you can consider it. Thank you.
That was exactly 2 extra minutes.
One more question.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes.
Good afternoon. My name is Nancy Cook. I live on Hillcrest Loop. I'm an employee of the university. I'm a donor. I'm the director of a private foundation that funds open space in Missoula. So I'm a neighbor, so I hold a lot of roles. And I would just, this is not a question, it's an urging. I would urge the deciders here not to do short-term planning, but to do long-term planning. And one of the things that's gotten me very passionate and often upset about this is I hear about parking lots all the time. I think parking lots are going to be an issue for maybe the next 4 or 5 years, at the outset 10 years, and then I don't think parking lots are going to be an issue. So I'd like to see long-term planning that takes into account there's a short-term issue to deal with, but once we're not obsessed about parking lots, there are lots of building spaces on the mountain campus and proximate, and we don't need to destroy green space. We don't need to make more noise pollution, heat pollution, air pollution in established residential areas. So I would urge you to consider the long term and not obsess about 700 parking spaces. And if you're going to do parking spaces, think about pervious pavement and things that will mitigate the damage that they're going to do in the short term. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Booch.
Hi, I'm Angela Gatchell. I live on Cinnabar. I am a student at Missoula College. I'm in the Honor Society. I've been on the Dean's List since I've been on the Dean's List since I've been here attending. Moved here from Illinois because of the beautiful area and the coziness of the town. I believe that our south side is our best bet because I go to Missoula College and I see the high schools. And I see for 2.5 years now, all of these commercials for, graduating high school. I thought we solved that issue. If we were to build on the south side, I believe that we have a greater opportunity here to really contribute to the high schools. If our children are not graduating, what are we doing wrong? As a mother that has raised her children, I call this mom's turn. And I'm going to be a transfer student. And I hope to get my bachelor's degree, go back home, and live a very beautiful life with a job. But what I'm hearing here today is the strategic plans to build this on the East Broadway doesn't make sense to me logistically. And I think of the high school and how much room they need. The gentleman talked about 1948, the purchasing. Well, things change. People grow. This community is going to change hands again. The next generation is going to be up. Their children are going to want good high schools. What's wrong with that picture? They're going to want better grade schools, better high schools, and the UM is giving them this avenue to do this. If we were to build it on the south side site, we would be able to enlarge it. We can interconnect it, and then we can have more of an influence at the high school level where it's really important, obviously. The state of Montana is spending all this money on commercials to graduate high school. What are these people doing to get high school graduations up? I know I would be in if it was my kid. So as a student, as a transfer student in business management, business administration, I'm looking forward to getting to the UM because this issue is making us look bad. It makes us sound bad. And I really wish that you would build the site on the south side because logistically it makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Getchell.
My name is Alex Taft. I'm City Councilor for Ward 3. And I live at South First and Chestnut, 1 block east of Orange Street, south of the river. I've been a long time proponent of the South Campus site for Missoula College. We've had many years of a very good open process with a strong advisory committee and many meetings. And indeed, as designed today, it is a beautiful campus. As opposed to this site, the East Broadway site, and if you measure the East Broadway site against the 4 items that the President mentioned, proximity to campus, of course it is proximity to campus, so is the South Campus site. It is made close, the South Campus site, because of transit being available, and quite a bit of it, both the city transit and the student transit. This is not a beautiful site. Any river is beautiful, and its contiguous shore is beautiful. You're not going to see that beautiful shore from this site. It is a sea of parking with what I calculate to be a 3 to 5 story building. As an urban planner, this is the kind of bad structures that were put in place in the 50s and 60s in cities. It does have transportation and parking, yet it has to rely on surface parking. I imagine you cannot go down underground because of the cost of doing that. And it really does not support the community, because what the community sees is from East Broadway, one building in a sea of parking. The 6-acre green on the South Campus side is just such a contrast to this site. I am also interested in the mayor's proposal, and I won't go through a lot of reasons for that, but as an urban planner, if you are going to have a in-town site, that is the site to be at. It has underground parking. We would have 3,000 people downtown with all the existing infrastructure in place. The only problem I could see with the Fox site would be that bagels on Broadway would run out of bagels at 8:15 in the morning, and the coffee shops would be lined up out the door. So I hope you consider that site. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't going to steal it, really. My name is Peggy Kane, and I am a member of the infamous Advocates. I had an errand to run across campus today, and I was walking past the old men's gym, and where the guy with the shot put thing is throwing, it says, "Health is the first of all liberties." And I think that's really important to remember. When we're not just talking about a patch of land, we're talking about a sacred patch of land. I have lived here since I was 5 years old. I learned to golf on that golf course. I have seen every kind of bird you can imagine, every kind of tree, ground critters, salamanders. So it's, you know, when we talk about parking lots in an urban space, let's talk about reality too. Our forefathers thought it was so important for the university students to have an area to recreate that they raised money themselves. And think how hard that was in the 20s. So you can't just say that was then, this is now, things change. Missoula has not changed all that much. We're never going to be a big city. So I would encourage you to think about all aspects.
Thank you, Ms. King.
My name is Wayne Lundberg. I live on 170 Grand View Way, which is nowhere near the South Campus. I actually have, I do play golf there. But mostly I'm looking for it for the future, for kids to learn to play golf, because they don't have a lot of places that nurture kids, with the exception of golf lessons, and then tell them to go play. That's beside the point. My question is, why not consider the Missoula, Fort Missoula site? I don't understand the reasoning there. We already have the technology and the industrial arts there. It was planned to have a complete campus with all the facilities there, and I guess I just would like to know what the reasons are that it isn't being considered. And then the other thing is, I guess I don't quite understand why it has to be, Missoula College has to be within the close proximity of the main campus if it's all, it can be all inclusive on its own campus. And once the students transfer, so if they so choose, then they could go to the main campus. But I don't understand what the reasoning is as far as why students have to be, that are attending Missoula College, have to be close to the main campus. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Let me respond. The overriding reason, and I realize that you may not agree with me on this, but the overriding reason for not considering the Fort Missoula site is this issue of proximity. I believe in today's world that the integration of two-year education with the rest of higher education is an important factor. It is the direction that the Montana Board of Regents is going in a general sense, both programmatically, if not physically. And it would detract from or make more difficult our ability to deliver cost-effective education because of the need for duplication of services relative to if the Missoula College is closer to the main campus. In addition, the Fort Missoula site would be a pretty expensive site to build on, given that there's no infrastructure, no appropriate infrastructure west of Reserve Street suitable for this facility. So those are my primary reasons. And again, I don't expect that everybody will agree with those reasons, but those are the reasons primarily. This proximity to the main campus is, I believe, essential for the future, the decades to come of two-year education. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Louis Schneller. Thanks again for moderating this bill, and President and honored staff. I have a question for the President. And after listening to Mr. Rhodes explain the history going back 90-some years, I can't help but think that when the South Campus Plan was being put together, you had to have known those facts. You had to have known all that information. And the question I have is, why did you continue forward with the South Campus Plan and so adamant about the South Campus Plan in the face of the knowledge that there was a state statute prohibiting, and contrary to your plans, I guess I have music for the background here, but why was the plans pushed so strongly forward with the full knowledge of all this documentation and the original purposes of what that land was designed for? And with all the controversy that would obviously erupt, because I am a member of the Missoula, the Advocates for Missoula's Future, I am the sitting chairperson. And so, but I'm speaking on not only on their behalf, but on my behalf and all the people who are associated with that wonderful open space. Why would you pursue forward in the face of all this documentation? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. The answer is fairly simple, because we respectfully disagree that we are limited with what we can do with that land. I know that, again, you don't agree with that, but that's our position, that we have done the background research needed and that we have the legal authority to do what we need to do on that piece of land. Again, you may feel free to challenge that, but that's our position, and so it's just something that I guess we would have to decide at some point in a legal sense.
And if you would visit the website, the umt.edu/Build Missoula College, the South Campus Plan is there. And some of this reasoning, some of the explanation is listed at that site. There are copies of the transfer times of the deeds as the land was transferred to the university. It's an interesting site. I've been looking at it as I prepared for this. So just another resource for you. And also the university's official response to the question of this question is also on that website as well, under the frequently asked questions.
Does that take from my 2 minutes?
It does not. That is the moderator's prerogative.
Sorry, Wayne. I'm Kent Watson. I'm a landscape architect here in town. I have my office downtown. I'm also a member of the Missoula Downtown Association Board of Directors. I am, however, speaking on my own behalf, and I expected a long line as well. I wasn't even planning to speak. I do speak in support of the South Campus Plan, and I have to echo what Alex has said and what my good friend Garrick has said about the differences between the two settings. One of the things I would recommend as a landscape architect, that any of your documentation about the South Campus Plan show phasing, because I think a lot of people think it's something going to happen, everything's going to disappear that's there now, and all that open space will be lost. I know from a pragmatic development standpoint that will not happen. It is important that you convey that to the public so they understand that even though the ultimate plan will still have a lot of wonderful open space, you need to show that over time the changes will be made, the trees will mature, things will happen and so forth to finally make a really beautiful plan in 50 or 100 years or whatever it takes. But I think it's really important that in the graphics that you present that you're able to do that. And I think, there's no question the South Campus Plan fulfills all the criteria.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson.
Good afternoon. My name is Renee Mitchell. I live on Larkspur, which is just off of 39th Street. In the mornings, I oftentimes go over to a youth home and take kids to school. I can turn right from any of the streets south of 39 onto the street, but if I were to try to make a left turn, I might be sitting there for a long, long time. Consequently, at 3 to 3:30 on to 6 o'clock, making trying to get onto that street from the north side of it and making a left turn is an impossibility. By concentrating another campus into a residential neighborhood, you're going to have a nightmare. And you guys aren't even talking about doing an environmental impact statement or study. You're going to impact the residents over there severely. I'm going to be impacted. I just have a couple of thoughts. People say, why isn't there a big line here? I'm going to tell you why. My opinion, and I'm speaking for myself, is that I've seen this dog and pony show for a couple of years now, and you have not yet listened to us. I passed out 93 flyers yesterday telling people about the meeting. There was nothing volatile in it. It was just President Ekstrom will be hosting a forum regarding the selection of 2 sites. I passed those out and people said they've already got their mind made up, and I have to wonder if that isn't true. You probably do. I'm guessing it's the South Campus. You can't touch it legally. The East Campus isn't big enough. The 2 most popular sites are at the present location, but that would take some dealing with the county to wriggle some more land out of them and the land that you've got out at the West Campus. I have a friend here from North Carolina, and she told me about this great little 2-year college they have. Their culinary arts school is so well known and so popular that these kids have a restaurant called Flavors. And in order to get a lunch reservation there, you have to go into a lottery several weeks in advance, tell how many are in your party, and then you wait until they run the lottery and you find out whether or not you can have lunch on that particular day that you know. It is so popular. And yet we had Sarah come to one of our forums that you all, I won't say you all because we did have Asa there, chose to boycott it, but she asked a very pertinent question. She said, if you move to the South Campus and you don't take the culinary arts school, who are we going to serve these wonderful meals to? I don't know why Missoula College can't have its first-class campus out west on the 50-some acres that are there. They could have a little restaurant that overlooked the river out there that would be second to none, and they could have a lottery for lunches, and they could have their industrial arts and all of their other classes out there, and people would be clamoring to go to school there, and yet we're going to water down UM, my alma mater, we're going to water down Missoula College, and you're going to wonder why your enrollment continues to drop and drop and drop.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you.
Next.
I do have just one response, if I could. I do want to make sure everybody understands that we will do whatever environmental analysis assessment is required of us and is responsible of us. And the state A&E department will make sure we do that. We couldn't proceed anyway without doing all of those required things. So to say that we're not going to do them is that's just not accurate. We will do whatever is required of us in that regard.
My name's Kathy Noble. I have no intention of speaking here today, but a few of the things that I've heard have made it necessary for me to do that. I live on Short Street, which is far away from the South Campus. I was an 8-year employee of the University of Montana and spent a lot of time driving those neighborhoods to and from the campus where I lived then. That required me to take that route. I also drive in those areas on Saturdays of football games and after basketball games and so on. I want just a point of clarification. If I'm understanding this correctly, the main entrance into the South Campus is going to be on South Avenue. Is that right? South Avenue is a dead-end street. I know everybody knows that. But the logic isn't there to dump that much traffic onto a dead-end street. You're bound on one side by a mountain, you're bound on the other side by university housing. So I wonder what is going to happen to that neighborhood. That's a big concern to me. I like the idea of the East Broadway site because it's ugly now. And it sounds like if you develop the campus there, it's going to look a lot better. And then we'd have 2 beautiful spaces in town. The other thing, going back to the traffic, is do any of you drive that area on a regular basis? Have you ever been stuck at the corner of Higgins and South Avenue at 5:15, let's say? There's a long wait, and I can't imagine what 700 more cars will do to that situation. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Newman.
Hi, my name is Kristen Wood, and I've lived in Missoula about 30 years. I'm a physical therapist, and I'm sorry if I reiterate things. I just got here. I just got off work. And I think the times that were chosen were difficult for working people to get here. So that may be why there isn't a long line of people. I speak for myself as part of the Ladies League at the golf course. We golf Thursday nights. There's 72 of us that golf every Thursday night. There's 3 golf leagues that I know of, 2 men's league and a women's league, so that's 72 people each night. I know the Geritol League is very active during the week, and if you ever try to golf on the weekends at the university, it's always packed. I think it's a great place for the people of Missoula. All the golf courses in the area are always full, and I think it's a fabulous open space. A lot of people cross-country ski there because it's so close in town in the wintertime, and you can go over there and ski on your lunch hour because it's close and the parking lot is available. So you can actually take, you don't have to try to drive out of town or up Patty Canyon. I used to live in the neighborhood. I used to live on Patty Creek Drive, and I also lived for a year on Arthur. And the traffic then was prohibitive of sitting in the backyard at Arthur because of the logging trucks at that time going down the street. You could hardly speak to the people you were sitting with. Much less than the logging now, but I think the increase in traffic would be phenomenal. Just with the increase in traffic, trying to come to the golf course at 5:30 in the evening, and the people leaving the campus, it's really a clogged sensation at that Higgins and South Avenue. I do think a lot of people do use that parking, the Doran Blazer Field parking lot, but I think the issue of that many more students and that many more cars is huge. I can see that the main campus is already very full because I also try to take some Molly classes on Fridays if possible. And that's difficult to park at the main campus if you don't have a spot as well. But the bus service is really good, and I often see, because my office is between the two, the COT now and the main campus, I see these big U-Dash buses going from one campus to the other several times during the day, and there's usually like one person on the bus. And that doesn't say to me that there's a huge amount of people going back and forth. I don't know the numbers, I'm not in the know. But I think if there was a large need for that cross-section, there would be more people on those buses. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
I'm Nancy Wilson. I'm representative for House District 97, and I was proud to vote for Missoula College for Missoula's economy and the state's economy and our youth's education and business promotion in Montana, so I was very proud to do that. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here as the director of ASUM Transportation, and I'm reporting to you that the ASUM Transportation Board voted unanimously to support the downtown location because they believe that that would be a really brilliant place for us to be able to serve the rest of the students that are trying to get to the main campus, along with the College of Technology students. And we also think it's a brilliant spot to enhance the economy downtown. We know that isn't on the table, so we want to talk about the two issues that are on the table. The South Campus, we're really excited to support the South Campus if that is one of the two spots, and we're more excited to see the Circulator Road being added to that project because that will make the difference in traffic flow at that area. And I would like to address the last comment. Our Missoula College route is a highly used route, and I can get those numbers for you. I'm sorry I didn't write them, but it's a highly used route. We do have to reject the East Broadway location for many reasons, but one of them is that it is a highly dangerous spot to pull in and out of. If you actually look at the roadway at that spot, you're coming up a hill and it's very hard. It's okay for us, we're in buses, we can see what's coming if we're higher up. But for cars and for pedestrians, it is a very dangerous area. I would hate to see parking built on both sides of those roads and having people trying to cross that to access that area. And I also just aesthetically can't accept that design. Personally, that wasn't part of the board's decision, but personally I think it looks awful. So the board's recommendation, however, was that we currently have an active parking right there. We'd love to see housing in that spot. We think it's a beautiful place, and that is what's happening out in that area. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
I'm Phil Persick. I live on Evans, about a block off campus. I've come here to express my views about the locations you were discussing for Missoula College South Campus and the Broadway site. I have no preference. What I will tell you is this: either one will require an environmental impact statement, not just an environmental assessment. And this university administration cannot be trusted to assess impacts independently. They have all but ignored the concerns of citizens regarding traffic flows on Arthur for the last 3 years. They continue to run old, non-currently EPA compliant and mostly empty buses continuously up and down Arthur day and night with no evident concern for the precious airship we all share in Missoula. With the advent of a Missoula College at either side, traffic flows could double on Arthur. With the structural concerns stemming from the recent assessment of the Madison Street Bridge by the Montana Department of Transportation, it's essential that there be an environmental impact statement to address the potential impacts of as many as 400 buses daily over this structure. The number 400, we have already over 400 buses bus runs occurring each weekday along Arthur already. 412 was the count recently. And a good share of them are made by dilapidated, oversized University of Montana buses. A third alternative to the South Campus and Broadway is the Riverfront Triangle site advanced by our city's mayor. I highly respect this mayor, and I hope that the university does as well. Not only would this site provide a possible cost savings in a beautiful location, it also adjoins a newer bridge. I found out today it was built 10 years ago. I knew it was recent, but it's only 10 years old, which might require less concern with traffic flows. And the city's participation would ensure that concerned citizens of this community would be heard. We frequently feel ignored by the university. If the university decides to go forward with either the South Campus site or the Broadway site, rest assured an environmental impact statement will be required. The consequence of ignoring this requirement has already been expressed. I also want to thank ASA, because ASA is the first person I've had confidence in the 3 years I've been working on this. You've made a measurable impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Percy.
My name is Sally Peterson, and I represent myself. I live on Evans Avenue. See a lot of familiar faces that we've met before, other places, and I have a respect for the University of Montana. I have a respect for the citizens, so I feel like I get pretty conflicted about these decisions. My main point is I've been out and about talking to people on the far west side of town who remember the day when there was a VOTEC, and they still are impassioned about technology education, as well as the other components that Dr. Engstrom spoke about. Transfer being an important opportunity. But my bottom line comment is that I'm sure that Studio Forma can build an elegant building, a useful, well-designed building on any site. They're a very competent firm. I still believe in autonomy of a 2-year institution and autonomy of the 4-year school, that they both ride on their own expertise, that they have a collegial sort of linkage. Embedded is still an experiment. What the 2-year colleges do is provide a lot of student support. And the point and question I'm getting to, regardless of what site and where you go, that's President Engstrom's decision. I care very much about student support services, that students can succeed. The majority of 2-year students drop out in their first year. 2 years later, the remaining ones, only about 20 through 25% graduate. So I want to see the supports in place. And my question is, if they build on any site, particularly maybe the Broadway site, because I love the investment of the open space and how that's been used by so many citizens of the community. So I see a congeniality if we leave that alone and improve it. But would there be an opportunity to develop a child associate degree at the child care associate degree at the 2-year institution, so that they could have their own support system? They wouldn't have to be on a waiting list for the university. That's just one little thread, because I know many of them drive, they work. It's a hassle to take their children to daycare. So that's kind of like, would you be able to allow that associate degree program? Maybe very good, could you answer that? At some point in time, so we could facilitate one of their supports to make them graduate, to help us so they don't get discouraged. So that's my real small, minute question, and thank you for letting me speak. Thank you for moderating.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Sally. I think the development of an academic program in either that particular discipline or any other discipline can happen regardless of site and location, and we have a full process for proposing, evaluating, and ultimately approving new academic programs. And it has to do with student demand and student placement and and all of those kinds of things. And so that certainly could be taken under consideration regardless of site location. I mean, it's an intriguing idea, and it certainly can be deliberated independent of this particular decision.
Good afternoon. My name's Joyce Rusey, and I'm a former employee of the University of Montana, and I currently live on Whitaker Drive. I just wanted to thank the panel for having this opportunity for public input. The only criticism I would have, and I'm going to go on to my remarks, is that the hours chosen do leave out people who work during the day. I had to take time away from my work to come here today. This is an important issue. And the back-to-back scheduling, Thursday and Friday. I'd encourage the university to keep understanding the importance of public perception, that such a scheduling could be seen as an attempt to hurry up the decision-making process or the input process. And I don't think that's what you want. I don't think you want that perception. The other remark is I would favor the East Broadway location because I think it provides opportunities for community growth. Many times they say, well, Missoula isn't growing. It's going to continue to grow. It's grown in the 30 years I've been here. And things that seem on the outlying locations today aren't going to be out there. Think about it. The fairgrounds used to be on the outskirts of town. They certainly aren't anymore. We are a growing community, and the opportunity to beautify a space along the river to add to the culture and character of our town, I think is a wonderful opportunity. I support that. If we have any concerns about traffic at that location, and I know from experience how difficult it can be to turn left onto East Broadway from Montech, work with the city, communicate with the city, and maybe we can put a stoplight there that will facilitate that will increase access. I just encourage you to keep asking for people's perceptions and their input, and schedule things at hours they can come, a variety of people. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ken Wall. I live on Sussex and Ronald, near the South Campus, and I work at Montech, so I'm kind of near both of the locations. I also didn't intend to talk today, but I want to just reinforce some of the things that were said. The traffic is an issue, obviously, on the Broadway site. I ride my bike there every day, and I also ride the bus back and forth there with a 45. These are things that can be addressed, I know. But with 45-mile-an-hour zone, it definitely is something that needs to be taken into consideration. The parking lot is also, the parking ride has been very popular, and so the parking lot is often full now, so I kind of wonder, how the additional cars are going to fit there, even if it is kept with the current plan. The other thing I wonder, though, is how much time does this buy us? It's obviously, to me, not an either-or situation. The Broadway site may delay further development on South Campus, but obviously there's plans for, probably a need in the end for more development eventually. So how much time would this, if it does go on Broadway, how much time would it buy us? I haven't read the long-range plan to see what the next phases are and how many years out. And then lastly, I'd also like to support the mayor's idea because I travel both and I live near both locations. It actually would be easier to get on a bus at Orange and at the river on Orange to get to campus faster than it would be unless there's an additional bridge built. And with the discussions earlier, it was a footbridge versus a traffic bridge across near the site. So.
Thank you.
My name is Catherine Brady. I'm the director of the ASUM Off-Campus Runner Center, and I live on Vine Street. I'd like to speak to the urgent need for additional student housing in Missoula, and housing that's close to campus, that's affordable, that's quality housing, and that's safe. I think that the East Broadway site would be a perfect spot for that. I think it meets all of the requirements that we would need to build a large facility that could accommodate a lot of students. And so for that reason, I would support Missoula College being built on either the South Campus site or, if it's on the table, the downtown site. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Troy Lustico, and
Wise River Road, just south of town. I really like the East Broadway site for a couple different reasons. First of all, it's easy access. You got easy access from the exit from East Missoula, which makes it easy to get to school. Also, if you build the footbridge across the river, it'd be really easy for the Missoula College students to get to University of Montana for various reasons. Another reason I like it is maybe it's an economic catalyst for East Missoula as well. Also, if you got 4,000 students going to class there, be an economic catalyst for downtown Missoula as well. And then another reason I like it is if you're going to build a mid-rise building there, maybe even a mid-rise parking garage, it's kind of another exciting feature as you roll into Missoula from Interstate 90. Talked to a lot of people from out of town, say one of the things they like about Missoula is it's a really cool place to visit, come in and see that excitement. University of Montana downtown hospitals, there's just an electric field in Missoula that's really cool. Another mid-rise building would be something I think people from out of town would be attracted to, and you could use that to further market Missoula as one of the feature cities in the state of Montana. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Maggie Caraway. I live on East Broadway, and I've been working since 2005 with various people and now with the Advocates for Missoula's Future to preserve the open space that's occupied by the golf course. Missoula loves its open space. We pass open space bonds. We spend our own money to buy land for open space. And it's very important to us. And I would really like to thank the University Administration, President Engstrom, for considering alternative sites at this time. It's the first really good news that we've had, and I commend you. Thank you.
Thank you. Going once. This conversation will continue tomorrow from 2 to 4 at the Missoula College. I invite you to join us there as well. If you have thoughts over dinner tonight that you should have said today, please come tomorrow and share them with us. Thank you very much for joining us. Remember that you can write questions back there. You can go to the website. You can also send a question to buildmc@umontana.edu. Thank you.